Welcome into Sunday Sessions, everybody. It's so good to see so many of you already in the chat, to see so many of the members of our community out there. Muttley, PC, Mark, Carrie Ann, Cherry on the go. It's so good to see you all. Glad you're here, man. Welcome in, everybody, to Sunday Sessions. I host these conversations every weekend to model what I feel weekly community could look, sound, and feel like without any appeals to superstition or magical thinking. It's my vision and my burning desire to one day see people-centric campuses launching all across the globe, providing people everywhere with access to community and support that is safe, soft, secure, and sound. If you want to learn more about BridgeCity Global, take our free BC 101 How We Change the World course and join the conversation with the other students who are curious about being the bridge. Also, as a reminder, we started something new last week, and I'm really excited about this already. All year, ever since we've started, we've been looking for different ways that we can make impact and that we could do things that are positive, and YouTube just gave us something different to do. So I like this. So now YouTube allows us to see our top fans at the end of every live. So that means as you're commenting, YouTube is ranking your ass. You know what I'm saying? So as you're commenting, YouTube is ranking you. And so what we've decided to do, since they're giving us that information, at the end of every live show, we're going to give away digital products from Windows Shop. These are deconstruction resources, all that type of stuff, deconstruction and reconstruction resources to the top 3 commenters of every live. So if you're top 3, if you're in the top 3 for the comments today, you'll receive a free digital guide of your choice from Windows Shop. So hang with us through the end to see where you land. All right. Now, if you're new here, guess what? So is everybody else. This movement has absolutely outpaced our ability to build our operational teams. We've just grown way too fast. And so everybody here is new. Everybody you see here is brand new. As we said last week, you all got here first. When we started last year, we had 52 subscribers. We entered the new year with about 5,000 subscribers. And I was sure that that was the peak of our growth. And so I was going to spend the whole year, this whole year, recruiting and training a team of volunteers while also traveling to areas where we had hubs of supporters. So we have a lot of supporters in the Free Thought Triangle area, which is Raleigh, Durham, and Charleston. And so, but then winter came. Okay, in February, I was laid off from my job, and my household lost 60% of its income overnight. And while growing from 52 to 5,000 subscribers was impressive, it wasn't enough to make that moment comfortable. I have 4 children, 2 in high school, 1 in dance, 2 in band, and we had spent the past decade pulling our lives from minimum wage to middle class. And then winter came for House Martin. But it wasn't the first time, and it likely won't be the last. Because I've lived long enough to know that even when the seasons change, I can still remain. I hope somebody felt that right there. Prior to that moment, prior to all of this, I had spent a decade relearning how to mastermind myself, because I realized that between 2014 and 2017 that I had somewhere along the way submitted myself to a type of fatalism where I felt that my only approach to hardship was submission and defeat. I published my first book, walking myself through the early stages of that process of confronting the fact that I had robbed myself of growth by refusing to get in the ring with difficulty. Interestingly enough, difficulty meant something was wrong. Difficulty meant something was not natural, because after all, it's not supposed to be this hard, right? So if it's hard, it's not God's will, or if it's or it's not natural. That's such a slippery slope to be devastated by the difficulty instead of learning how to develop through it. If I continued to treat my winters like a crisis, I'd be in crisis every year. I do have to say that one more time. I do. If I continued to treat my winters like a crisis, I'd be in crisis every year. So when winter came, again, as it had done before, and as it likely will again, I was not devastated. I was determined to develop through it, committed to comprehending what had changed and what was now possible. And ever since then, I've been locked in a lab with a pen and a pad trying to get this opportunity to generate real social change, because that's my core drive, to change the world. And that's what I realized between 2014 and 2017, that I would never be able to maximize my opportunities if I was always running from my winters. That if I really wanted to change the world, like seriously, D, I was going to have to mastermind my life. Since being laid off, we've grown from 5,000 to over 53,000 global supporters. I've launched the BridgeCity 101 course, which currently has over 70 students. I've launched Window Shop, where people can find resources that actually help them in this journey of deconstructing and reconstructing while getting some fly ass merch on the way. And the list literally continues. We have MasterMind, we have Omniverse, but I'm literally doing what I taught myself to do. And I'm locked in right now, working on masterminding my way through this moment so that I can maximize the opportunity to change the world. And if you're here now, that's where I am. I'm a man on a mission, man. Right now, anybody can get in, fit in, and even sit in, but you're definitely going to have to figure out how to mastermind this ish. So today, I want to take some time to share with you my own mastermind model. Whether you're trying to lead a revolution or a community, a group or a band, a family, or hell, even yourself, I want to share with you a framework that I've used to reframe my perspective and reclaim my life. If you're ready for this conversation today, will you type "mind your life" in the chat? Oh, we're about to have a good time this weekend. Would you go ahead and type "mind your life" in the chat? We're going to talk about this today. I'm actually going to give you some insight into literally what I've used to reclaim my life, to reframe my perspective, to learn how to approach life a little differently, to approach myself with more grace, to approach others with a little more grace. Somebody say, mind your life. I realized the better I got at me, the better I could get at life. Can I say that one more time? The better I got at me, the better I could get at life. The better I got at me, the better I could deal with other people. The better I got with me, man. Y'all got to talk to me. Mind your life. The better, they used to say, mind your business. But man, I'm going to tell you something. You can't mind your business until you learn how to mind your life. So I want to talk about why this is vital this weekend, especially for me. I like this framework, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I built it, because it's designed to transform. In order to transform insight into sustained change, we have to begin by grounding ourselves in a type of model. And I call it a mastermind model. It's a 5-pillar hierarchy that sequences personal mastery before social impact. And that was the revelation for me, was that in order for me to get myself in a position where I'm going to be able to make social impact, I've got to make sure I'm working on mastering myself. And it's not just so that I can do more. It's also that I don't do damage while I'm doing more. I hope that made sense. I don't know why I got these headphones on, but it's also so that I don't do damage while trying to do more. So I want to work on me. You see what I'm saying? See, this isn't a light overview. Each pillar draws on decades of sociological and psychological research with real-time practices and measurable outcomes. Self-mastery is an exceptional tool for social impact. If you want to make a difference, start with the difference in yourself. I started building this framework after confronting the fact that I could have been making more impact if I got more intentional. But before I could do the work of convincing anyone else, I was going to have to do the work of conditioning myself for the task at hand. I wanted to build something grounded in proven theory, demonstrable results, and critical thinking, because I so despise so much of the one-size-fits-all promises that get marketed by motivational speakers, gurus, and consultants who ultimately end up just peddling another form of woo. It gets people excited, but gives them nothing substantive or actionable. And just like the superstition of religion, when it comes up empty, the recipient is often forced to shame themselves into not being good enough, when the truth often is the bullshit they gave you wasn't good enough. It was an energetic promise, not an evolutionary process. So I wanted to develop a process informed by what we understand from psychology, and sociology that helps people navigate their own growth journey in alignment with their individual ideas. And y'all know I am a stickler on this, for their individual ideas of what success is, as opposed to predetermined notions of abundance or hustle or wealth. The reality is that we do not all want the same things, and nor should we. But we all want, like I want this fly to stop flying around me. We all want. And it is when our wantings go unfulfilled. And I want you to think about this. It's when our wantings go unfulfilled, our dreams deferred, and our hopes halted. It is then that we begin to decay, decline, and depreciate ourselves against the backdrop of others. And that is when we begin to shrink from our own possibility, potential, and capacity. So let's workshop these 5 pillars and see if we can pull something valuable from today's conversation. I want to introduce you to the first one. Are you ready for this one? And you've probably heard me mention this one before. Let me wipe the sweat off my nose. I'm a preacher, so I sweat early. We just getting geared up. The first one I want to give you, and we've talked about this one before, is nutrition. Okay? Clarify your inner blueprint and curate your information diet. This is the first pillar. This is where I encourage everyone that I've ever been responsible or accountable for any type of mentorship relationship. This is where we like to start. What does your information diet look like? And what is your inner blueprint? Clarify your inner blueprint. What do you want? What is your number? What are your goals? What are your desires and why? We did a whole series on purpose and answering that question of what is my motivation? Who am I today? It's the question that actors have to answer when they're taking on a role, is what is the motivation of this character? And I often encourage people to look at yourself as the main character of your life and do the hard work of figuring out what is my character's motivation. That's your inner blueprint. But why do I want to do that? So then I can make sure that my nutrition diet, my information diet aligns with where I want to go. So the objective of the nutrition pillar is to establish a strong foundation of self-awareness, self-care, and autonomy. Okay. So in the mastermind model, nutrition is the cornerstone. This fuels your motivation, your clarity, and your resistance. This is beyond values and emotions, but it demands sovereignty over your mind's input and cultivation of self-trust. And so with each one of these pillars, I formulated what I would consider healthy indicators and unhealthy indicators. So if I want to look at where I am personally, where I am with my nutrition, according to this model, the healthy indicators, when I say, I might be doing okay, the healthy indicators is just confident in self. Like I am confident in myself. I trust my judgments. I trust my choices, and I trust my ability to learn from my lessons. I trust my ability to learn from my losses. See, having confidence in yourself is not just knowing that every decision I will make will always be right. It is not knowing that everything I do will always be perfect. It is trusting my ability to know that when something is wrong, I can catch it quick. And then even if I don't catch it quick, I can bounce back. I can navigate. So a healthy indicator is that I trust in myself, and we do this as healthy versus unhealthy, so that if you find something and you say, that might not be healthy, that isn't a diagnosis, that's an opportunity, right? So that's the first one, confidence in self. The second one is autonomy of choice, right? Which means you proactively select your beliefs, your ideas, and your inputs. You're not just passively receiving beliefs from other people. You're interrogating. You're interrogating your beliefs. You're interrogating your ideas. You're monitoring your inputs. You know why you believe what you believe. You know why you think what you think. This is what I like to call autonomy of choice. You know why you're making your decisions. Your decisions are not just reactions. It's not just reflexes. You are intentionally responding to your environment, to your reality in real time. And then the third one is that you have some type of routine for continuous improvement. You have daily practices that fuel your growth, and whatever that is for you, right? So I like to use some of the big things, and then like to use some of the things that other people don't consider as big. And so one of those things is, listen, if your goal is gaming, if that's your passion and you want to be the best gamer, or whatever, then there should be, because this is what when I talk about discipline, what I often talk about is goal alignment. There should be something you're doing in your life on a regular basis that aligns you with the goal that you want to reach. So again, whether that goal is changing the world, whether that goal is changing a diaper, whatever it is, there needs to be something in your everyday routine that's a part of that continuous improvement process. So those are some healthy indicators. Now let's look at some unhealthy indicators, and and we'll all feel this. Because and again, just to remind you, I built this while building me. So I had I had damn near all of these unhealthy indicators. So the first one is superstitious decision making. Waiting for signs or gut feelings, superstitious decision making is not just bound to people who have religious ideology. There are people who've never been religious, as we often define it, who still have a lot of superstitious ideologies. One of mine, and y'all forgive me, it's hotter than normal today, so I am sweating my ass off. But one of mine, just a small one, growing up in the South, firmly believing in Southern hospitality, I firmly believe that if you just treat people right, life will go good for you. I firmly believe that. I did. Like, I believe that with my whole chest. That if you just treat people right, if you're just nice to people, then life will go good for you. Now, the problem with that, and the reason why I kind of put that in the label of superstitious thinking now, is because treating people right is not a fucking strategy. Just to be very clear, treating people right, you're not actually saying something when you say that, because people are individuals. And so what one person may consider treating them right, somebody else may not. And that's no. Mm-mm. But then number two, it also involved me overlooking all of the times that I am treating people right and they still doing fucked up shit. So it was superstitious of me to think that what would make my life work is just being nice to people. You know what I'm saying? Is just being nice to people, right? No, being nice to people is a good thing to do. It is definitely a good thing to do. I'm not out here being a jackass. Unless you're a troll, I can be jackass. I can go there. There's a whole fool in here, But it doesn't mean I'm going to go around and being a jackass to people. It just means that, oh, no, being nice is a good thing to do, but that's not necessarily the strategy that's going to get you the life that you want. That's just who you be. That's just who you are, So one of my superstitious thinkings was that as long as I'm nice to people, everything else will work out. Oh, no. That was an unhealthy indicator. That was an unhealthy indicator. And it wasn't just, damn, this was everything. It wasn't just my finances. It was my life. It was the way I did relationships with my family members. It was the way I did relationships with my mentors, with my leaders. If I just be nice to me, if I just be nice to them, they'll eventually see my value, instead of me recognizing that, hey, this is a person that their current context in life is robbing them of their ability to see your value or appreciate you for who you are or where you are. And so you can give yourself the freedom to recognize that shit. But in order to do so, I had to kick against so much cultural propaganda that had already posited me to approach life in a certain way. So I am judging what I do in life by signs or signals or gut feelings or instinct or intuition, and completely ignoring the data. So that's one of those unhealthy indicators. is that the decisions I'm making in my life, it's not even based on an understanding of the cause and effect. It's not based on an understanding of processes. It's just based on, I want this. This sounds nice. I should have it. I deserve to have it. I'm a nice person. Why don't other people want me to have it? I'm being nice. You ever felt like that before, where you're like, man, I've tried everything that I can think of trying, but then when you actually sit down to count what you actually tried, the only thing you tried was being nice. You know, like oh man, shoot, man. Okay, all right, let's go. We got to keep rolling. So another unhealthy indicator is reliance on external cues. So deferring decisions to others or chance, you know, and this is why this nutrition area is so necessary, because ultimately we lean into superstitious ideologies and we lean into deferring many times because we have not grown comfortable with trusting ourselves. And when I say trusting ourselves, I mean even trusting our ability to understand, even trusting our ability to navigate. Many of us, especially those from religious ideology, have already convinced ourselves that we are completely incapable of ever being able to understand life. And so superstitious thinking becomes the most appropriate way to approach life. So if you can't understand anyway, you have to trust that somebody else figured it out 3,500 years ago, and just don't lean on to your shit, just trust them. Which, in order for you to do that, you have to completely overlook the fact that in order for them to get the information they got, they had to trust in their understanding. So you're trusting somebody else not to trust yourself. That is wild. And so that becomes necessary. But many of us, we live that way. I lived that way. Have you ever been in situations and you're watching it fall apart, knowing that it's falling apart, but you don't allow yourself the freedom to say what it is because you're thinking maybe God is still going to make a way, or maybe life is doing something here. Maybe the universe is trying to give me a message. And it's like, yeah, pay attention to the message. This shit is falling apart. Call a spade and be okay with it. But then what that thing typically plays on in our minds is, what if it was a sign? You see? All right. And then again, passive information consumption, scrolling or absorbing without purpose. We now live in a meme generation. And one thing, I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but I do find this alarming. Especially when I see it in the secular community. I find it alarming how many memes get shared. You know, I know I'm not trying to sound like an alarmist. I'm just saying I find it alarming how many memes get shared. And I'm gonna walk it down a little bit, because it's not just the amount, it's the frequency. When you see things, you see a meme pop up, especially if it's political. You see a meme pop up, and just from the moment it kind of hits the zeitgeist, within 10 minutes, so many people have shared, redistributed that meme, that piece of information, that data point. And I find it a little alarming because of the frequency, how fast it happened. What that does lead me to kind of properly assume is that the majority of people who are resharing it are not investigating it. And when you understand how social influence works, we all default to superstitious thinking because it feels like a safe shortcut. And sometimes that safe shortcut is popularity. How popular something has become, how quickly something becomes popular, ends up lending something credibility that it may not have, you know? And so it's a little alarming for me, not that so much misinformation gets shared, but that so many people who rightfully know how to criticize their biases in religious conversations don't know how to do the same in others. But we compartmentalize. We do that. Oh man. All right. So let's kind of talk about some key moments in the nutrition before we move to the other four pillars. All right. The first one is autonomous information curation. And this is why I named this one nutrition. I struggled with this when I was building this out, what to name it. And by the way, the guide for today's conversation, do you see that damn fly? Did he just land on me? He did. How disrespectful. And he did it again. That motherfucker. Okay. Flies got to eat too, I guess. But anyway, I named this one nutrition because it really is about your diet. And it's about your informational diet. You know, when I got serious about my personal health, you know what I'm saying? When I got serious about my personal health, I got serious about my nutrition. Now, I didn't become necessarily what some people may call a health nut. So don't be out here clocking my plate. You know what I'm saying? Like I eat whatever the fuck I want to eat. I'm just more aware and more intentional of how what I eat impacts my body, right? So I did that with my food and then realized, maybe I need to be doing this with my information. Y'all know former Black nationalist. And in the crux of my involvement, I remember it was like almost every week, there was another news story about somebody getting shot, getting killed. And I was binging it left and right. And at some point in the process, I had to ask myself, was I watching this for information? Or was I allowing my trauma to become an addiction? Was I watching this to get strategy, to figure out how to help, to figure out how to make a difference? Or was I watching this just to be angry? You know, I had to do something similar to that when I was working with myself about my food issues. You know, am I eating this because I'm hungry? Or am I eating this because I'm addicted? Am I eating this because I need energy? Or am I eating this because this is how I've learned to cope? You see how he's trying to get me? Am I eating this just to cope? So I had to get the same way with my information. Am I watching this because I want to help? Am I watching this because I want to make a difference? Or am I watching this because I want to feel mad? Because I want to feel angry? And if that's the truth, that's okay. That's okay. But what do I want to do with that anger? So I discovered that like my news binges were dictating my outlook until I started curating my feeds aligned with my goals. My goal is not to see another Black body dead on the news. My goal is to build something that makes people safe. And just watching it over and over on television isn't going to change that, you know? So I have to find ways to stay informed while making sure that my information is productive. So if I'm giving myself this information, if I'm binging this information, how am I going to use this information? What is it doing for me? So the insight here is that intentional media choices protect your focus and reinforce your confidence, you know, because you have to realize we are receptors. You know, we are receptors from the moment you wake up. Hell, even when you're dreaming, we're receptors. You're taking in so many data points of information just within every millisecond. You're literally overwhelming yourself with information. We are all that way. We're all receiving information. You're walking through Walmart or Target or wherever the fuck you shop, and you're hearing music. You're hearing conversations. You grow up watching television, movies, cartoons. These things have an impact. You know, I remember one time I was in an argument with somebody and I was very, very angry. And I mean, I'm going off. And it was because it was something about my kids, you know? And I remember sitting with myself after the argument. It was my ex-wife. After the argument and said, is that really who I want to be? Why did I feel that I had to be that angry, that I had to be that loud? And I started unpacking that, and I realized because I had these media images in my head, these media memories, if you will, of the idea of Black men not fighting for their children, you know? And so the saddest thing in my head would have been for my children not to see me fighting for them. And luckily for me, I had all of these media memories to show me what fighting looks like. That this is what it looks like when you love people. You cry and you break down and you yell and you throw tantrums because you love people. And I'm like, whoa, I need to investigate that. I need to interrogate that. Do I believe that because I actually think that's the best way of getting things done? Or is this a model that I've passively learned through my media consumption? Because what you watch normalizes what you accept. It normalizes what you tolerate. It normalizes how you behave in the world. You know? Is this good, y'all? Is this good? All right. So, and then also, I learned how to build self-trust through routine. So building a daily self-check ritual gave me proof that I could rely on myself. No external validation needed. You know, I think I joked with y'all and told y'all that I wrote a song a few years ago called I Can Do Proud All on My Own. That was, and you know, it's liberating. I think sometimes people kind of mince when they hear me singing it. It's just like, no, that's just, it's not something I need anymore. There was a point in my life where everything I did, in order for me to feel okay with it, somebody else had to be proud, you know? Now, my mama got to be proud, or granny got to be proud, or my daddy got to be proud, or my spiritual father got to be proud, my mentors got to be proud, my church got to be proud, my children got to be proud, my wife got to be proud, man, maybe my brothers and my sisters. Now, I don't give a fuck who else proud. If I'm proud, that's all I need. That's what my pride is for. My pride is for me. My pride can't serve you. In the same way, like, even now, when my family started doing better and things was working right and we're getting back on our feet after we had lost fucking everything, and then people who did nothing to help us just showed up and said, I am so proud of you. And I just would always remind them, well, that is so fucking useless. You know, I don't need your pride. I need your participation. I need your cooperation. I need your collaboration. And if you can't do that, I'll take some compensation. I can do proud all on my own. Now, for some people, that can go to a toxic place, so make sure you don't do that. But for me, no, like, I don't need the external validation anymore. By building routines with myself and relying on myself, I don't need somebody else to tell me I'm doing a good job. I don't need an attaboy. You know? I do that for me. I'm real good with it too. After I do something that I'm proud of, I'm like, bro, you just killed that shit. Oh, homemade, come on. See, this is why I don't need anybody else's pride. I got mine. But I lived nearly 30 years of my life constantly seeking validation and being immobilized in movement until somebody else said, you did a good job. You know, this is why this nutrition becomes so important. You know, so regular practices embed competence and autonomy, countering reliance on superstition, taking it back to the gamers. If you're playing a game you never played before and you only play it when your cousins come over, you're going to suck every time. They're going to kick your ass every time they come over to play that game with you. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to build any confidence you're not going to build any confidence to whoop their ass. It's not happening. They're going to get you in that corner on Mortal Kombat every time and hit that same fucking button over and over again until you get mad and rage quit. That's how it's going to happen. But if you start spending some time every day, I'm going to play a little bit of the game. Every day, I'm just going to play a little bit of the game. The next time they come over there, you're going to mollywop their ass, you know, or at least get close to it. And if you don't the first time, you'll learn some shit that you wouldn't have been able to learn if you had not got into that ring. You see how this is really about preparing you to navigate complexity and not be devastated by difficulty, you know? But you do it at your own level. You start where you are, with the things that matter to you, with the things that are important to you. It's your journey. It's your journey. And so you want to avoid outsourcing your identity to anybody else. You want to avoid outsourcing your values to anybody else, because honestly, when you do that, for me as a sociologist, my concern is then that there's a part of human ideology that we're robbed of because we're not hearing you. We're not hearing your voice. You see what I'm saying? All right. And then another one in this one, and we'll move to the next pillar, is values first decision grid, right? So now in my life, and this ain't got to be you, this is me. Now in my life, every choice I make has to pass through my values filter. Okay? My values filter. And because I no longer believe in any type of moral perfectionism, I no longer believe in any type of predestination, I no longer believe in any type of prototypical or even typical humanity at all, then I am keenly aware that my values will likely not always be in alignment with the 8 billion other people on this planet. You know? And that's okay with me, because my choices shouldn't have to be filtered through their values, and their choices shouldn't have to be filtered through mine. You know, like we often say in this community, we tell people that, hey, your religious beliefs are for you. They tell you how to live your life, not how I should live my life. But so many of us have values that tell us how we want to treat other people, but we don't have values that tell us how we want to treat ourselves. So we have values that we recognize, oh, this person is a bad person or this person is not good. But I'm like, if you're so good at those values, why not use them for yourself? Oh, I'm this is good. This is good. And I'm not even raising my voice. That motherfucker hit me in the face. It's disrespectful. Okay. So I made every choice pass through my values filter. If it didn't align, I let it go. Didn't matter what anybody else says. Well, son, I think that was the wrong decision. Well, that's what you think. Your thoughts are for you. You know, I got confidence in myself. So watch this, and I'll warn you, this does come off as dismissive to other people, because people are used to their opinions having more preferential treatment in other people's lives. And I'm just not willing to give other people's opinion that much preferential treatment in my life, because it's my life, you know? Oh man, I hope that makes sense. So the insight here is to have a decision framework anchored in clarified values. This strengthens your self-trust and your continuous improvement. You know, so I want you to think about it, and think about one habit that you can curate out of your info diet this week. You know, maybe it's something you need to unfollow, unsubscribe. I had to do that for social media. Maybe about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I was telling my wife, I was like, oh shit, I feel like I'm always agitated. I'm always agitated, and I don't like this feeling. And so there were some people in my life who I realized were problematic, and they weren't even doing anything incredibly like destructive or anything. They were it was a person that wanted to be our assistant and stuff like that, but she was just always causing problems back then. And I tell my wife, I think she's torturing me. I say, is she trying to torture me? Because I don't understand what's going on here. And this was years ago. And I was like, I'm starting to feel so agitated. And then I also start looking at my social media feed. And I said, what? I couldn't scroll without finding something to complain about, without finding something to be critical about. My YouTube was the same way. I couldn't get in YouTube without seeing a video like, oh shit, that's some bullshit. Why am I, you know? And then after a while, you know, you say the words, why am I seeing this? Why am I seeing this? Every time I'm scrolling through, why the fuck am I seeing this? Why is Facebook sending me this? Why would YouTube put this in my feed? You know, saying the words, but not actually asking the question. See how that works? Instead of just saying, hey, why am I seeing this? To actually stop and say, no, why am I seeing this? Well, this is algorithm based. I haven't done anything to demonstrate that this isn't what I want to see. It was very simple. I had to stop following certain things. I had to unsubscribe from certain things. I had to be intentional about hitting those little 3 hamburger dots and saying, I don't ever want to see nothing like this again. And to do stuff like that, to curate my information diet, to remind myself, oh, dang, bro, you have a little bit more control in this than you thought. And it made one hell of a difference in my life. All right, so let's talk about why this is important. The Mind Your Life idea lays the groundwork, right? Without the overarching model to orient you, nutrition could feel like just random self-help tactics. The why of the model gives you your inner work, and it gives that work purpose. The next pillar is support, but I'd never like to get into support until we've dealt with the nutrition, right? Nutrition is critical before support. You're going to have a very difficult time building healthy relationships or asking for help if you haven't secured your own clarity and self-trust. So nutrition ensures you're not projecting insecurity or dependency onto others. All right, so let's move to pillar number 2, support. And the goal here is cultivating your empowering ecosystem. So many times we treat relationships as chance, just chance. Some people, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. If it serves you well, it's beautiful. Sometimes things happen beautifully. But when it doesn't serve you well, if your relationships are just by chance, you will likely not look at your relationships as something that you have any impact in, So this is really about learning how to cultivate your relationships and making sure that you're building a support system that is actually supportive. If you've lived your life building your relationships by chance, so we just went to the same school, so we've been friends ever since then, or we grew up in the same neighborhood, so we've been friends, or we just met one day randomly and we've been friends. All of that is fine and dandy, right? I'm not saying any of that is wrong. It works like that sometimes. This is for people who are in a place who are saying, I am surrounded, but I do not feel supported. Okay, that's who this part of the conversation is for. For those people who say, I am surrounded, but I do not feel supported. I have family, I have friends, I am surrounded, but where is the support? All right. 9 times out of 10, when that happens because the majority of your relationships, are y'all ready for this, are ornamental, not functional. They're ornamental, not functional. And please don't use that as a value judgment against yourself. Most people don't know how to do relationships because they're likely approaching them the same way you were. This is something I had to realize about myself, and this is something that allowed me to give grace to other people. It's like, oh, this was like a convenience store situation. But in doing it this way, I've never actually then wrestled with the hard questions of what do I actually need from my relationships, or what do I desire from my relationships. So we can use familial relational obligations, because that's one where we already have so many culturally encoded superstitions about how those relationships are supposed to work. So if you, many of you who deal with any type of parental isolation, alienation issues, where you and your parents are not seeing eye to eye, maybe it's because of your deconstruction, deconversion, or something else. And maybe you've gotten to that place where you realize this relationship is not healthy or never healthy. In many contexts, you don't even have the right to feel that way, according to the other person or to the other people or even other family members. So for me, and I'm gonna say from the Black experience, because my white folks, Asian folks, everybody else, you got to tell me how it is in your culture. I just don't want to speak for you. But in my Black experience, if you have a toxic parent, it really doesn't matter how toxic that parent is, you're going to hear the words, that's still your parent. Doesn't matter how toxic they are. Doesn't matter what they've done, what they're doing, even if they're actively doing it in the community that I grew up in. Well, that's still your mama. Well, that's always going to be your daddy. Well, just that's how they are. You don't get to pick your family. You hear those words and it becomes your truth. And then it never allows you to get to that place where you can ask yourself the question, but what do I actually need from family? And don't I get a choice in that? Man, I'm talking good now. You never get to ask yourself or wrestle with, well, what would I want from a mother? What would I want from a father? What would I need from them? You know, that question doesn't even exist on the table. What do I need from you? Because it doesn't matter, because it's already built into the framework where that's always going to be your parent, or that's always going to be your sibling, or that's always going to be whatever. And if you're not careful, that thing can overrun into all of your other relationships where you're allowing yourself to tolerate people with titles but aren't doing anything. They look good, but they're not functional. So you got a best friend who you never call when you're going through. Come on now, let's talk. Let's talk. One of the things you begin to learn is that you have a right to define what your expectations are from your relationships. You just don't get to impose it on other people. You actually have to do the hard work of finding people whose expectations align with yours. And now you see how we're moving from the superstitious element of it. That, dang, you know what? The probability of you being my best friend in the whole world that can handle all of my bullshit, the probability of me meeting you in third grade in a random school is not very high. It happens, but it's not very high. But if that's the model we've been living after, then most of us have never really been intentional about the relationships we're building, because we were expecting them to superstitiously just work out, you know? All right. So one of the things you want to do here is this is about mapping accountability, deepening trust, leveraging collective energy. And the MasterMind model, support transforms solitary insight into shared resilience. Strong social bonds buffer stress, it sparks innovation and amplifies motivation. But only when those relationships build you, not drain you. So let's kind of unpack our healthy and our unhealthy indicators. Healthy indicators of having a good support system is that you have trust in the environment. Trust in the environment. Do I feel safe to share? I trust this environment. When I am with these people, when I'm with my group, I feel safe to share. That's one of the things I challenge people with. When they tell me I got a support system, I feel good. They got me. That's my support system. The question that I typically ask them: when is the last time you had a real hard time, like a crisis? Which one of them did you call? You know? And if the answer, if you have an answer, and it's some of them, it's this one, it was all of them, then man, this is a good sign. But if the answer is, oh no, I don't bother them with stuff like that. So you might define good by ornamentalism instead of functionality. You might define good as, oh, I got some people I can hang out with when I want to eat pizza, and that's fine. I got some people I want to hang out with when I want to see booties at the club, and that's fine. But man, when life is happening, who do you have? You know? Another one is you have comfortable accountability when you have a healthy support. Feedback feels empowering, you know? And then you have daily constructive conversations where you're building ideas. And this one, because mind you, the MasterMind model was designed to help people reclaim their lives and do some audacious shit, right? And so I hang out, or did. Right now I'm isolated. I'm running like 5 different things at one time by my damn self, so I don't hang out with nobody right now. But when I was hanging out, I hung out with people with big dreams. Whether those dreams were artistic, whether those dreams were community, whether those dreams were global, big dreams, you know? Because I'm a big dreamer. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm a big dreamer. I got big dreams. I want to change the world. I want to make an impact. You know, I do. But then I realized that then if that's really my goal, then my conversations with my support crew needs to be in alignment with those goals. And so this is why when we talk about this, yeah, we're going to have some good conversations. We're going to have some fun conversations. But how many of our conversations are constructive? So we're always talking about the big dreams we have. But for whatever reason, even though we solid and we support and we love each other, we ain't ever made the decision to decide to work on one of these dreams together. And the truth of the matter is, it's because none of our conversations had even that type of construction intentionality in them. All right. So those healthy indicators is that, no, I feel comfortable. I can share. I trust this environment. Feedback feels empowering. I don't feel like feedback is tearing me down. And then I'm actually having daily constructive conversations. We're building ideas together. It's not just gossip. It's not just mental masturbation. We're talking about things that we want to do and why they're important to us and how we can help each other make it happen. Now let's unpack some unhealthy indicators. The biggest one, and y'all know me, I'm hyperproductive, so this one may not fly for you, but it's me. Unproductive conversations. You know, unproductive conversations. You're just circling conflict without solutions, or you're just talking about stuff that doesn't really matter. And just to be clear, that may be what you desire from your relationships. And if that is the case, then hey, that works. What many people desire from their relationships is a place to escape, right? Just a place to breathe, a place to talk without judgment, and basically just a place like no holds barred type of wild, wild west situation. And ultimately that becomes the slippery slope to relationships that don't build you, because then what happens is your relationships just turn into vent sessions. It's just having people together to vent, right? And then what happens? You're going to eventually end up competing about who has it worse. So you're going to show up and you're going to vent. But because this relationship isn't based on functionality, before moving on to the next person, somebody else is just going to respond with what they're venting with. And then you're creating an atmosphere where even though you're in it and you're like, yeah, you're going through something too, nobody's issues ever get addressed. And eventually you start kind of feeling invisible. You know, does not always happen that way, but it happens. So unproductive conversations. You want some conversations that are productive. You know, you're struggling with your family and you hang out with your friend group, especially this is your support group. You know, this is your squad. This is your squad up group. You want those conversations to be able to give you something that you can take back home and try, or you know, I think one of the saddest things in life, and this is just from me, is the way that we waste our relationships with each other. Oh man, I hope I'm giving y'all something to think about. All right. Another unhealthy indicator is you feel drained by the environment. You leave feeling exhausted. You know, this was one of the reasons I decided to stop visiting some of my family members. And mind you, they weren't visiting me at all. They were in my city a lot more than I was ever in their city. But I made the decision to stop because I would always go out my way because I had these superstitions about, no, this is what family does. And the funny thing is, I was overlooking the fact that they didn't share that same superstition. Because I'm showing up because I feel like this is what family does, but then you're never showing up at my house. So this is obviously not what you feel that family does. But every time that I would, I'd end up feeling so drained. There was never a time that I would stop by and be like, man, I'm really glad I stopped by and saw my granny today. Just never a time. Every time I left, I felt absolutely horrible. And once I allowed myself to shift, I'm like, then you don't have to continue to torture yourself like this. Like I gave an example in my book, Black Nonbeliever Next Door, where there was a time I'd stop by to see my grandmother and my aunts, and they began to scold me for not showing up to a family reunion. They said, your father was down here, and such was down here. And mind you, this moment, I hadn't seen my father in several years. And so I had to stop them in the middle of their scolding and say, hey, y'all never invited me to a family reunion. I mean, you mean to tell me y'all were all down in Florida together on the boat? You see my father, my brother, and nobody picks up the phone and says, Darante, where are you? But then a year later, I stop by and see you, and you're so hurt about this that you felt like you needed to scold me? All right, I'll tell you what. Fair game. Let's play your game. Let's play. Let's roll the dice, motherfucker. Why didn't y'all call me? Oh, you change your number so much. My number has not changed at this moment in over almost 20 years. I have the same number. I have another number that I don't give people, but the number they have, it's been the same. It's been the same. But I said, I'll do it. Let me get your phone. I'll type my number in for you. So that way you'll have it. And I start typing my number in. And what do you think happened? My name came up. Damn, that could have been today's conversation. My name came up. But no, typing my number in, my name comes up. I'm like, well, you had the number. You didn't call me. You're not really mad that I didn't show up to the family reunion. You did not want me to be there. You just want me to feel uncomfortable around you. Message received. So if your relationships are drowning you, if they're draining you, and you can't find the cause, the reason why, like, it's okay to be like, okay, we don't have to do this. we don't have to do this to each other. You know what I'm saying? Third unhealthy indicator, conflict from criticism. If every criticism leads to conflict, you have a support problem. This is an unhealthy indicator. You know, if I can't critique you without you being upset, and if you can't critique me without me being upset, then we have a safety issue. Yep. If I can't critique you and you can't critique me without it devolving into conflict, we have a trust issue. We have a safety issue, which means support doesn't exist. Whew. The friendship exists, the relationship is here, but the support doesn't exist. And so that's a healthy, that is an unhealthy indicator. If conflict is if criticism is always going to lead to conflict, then you're not treating each other like people who value insight. And it makes you gotta wonder, like, then why do you have them at the table? If feedback triggers shame or shutdown, that's an unhealthy indicator. And you're gonna have a hard time building a strong support system. All right. So some key moments from this one are just shifting from isolation to interdependence. You know, so many times we begin the growth energy or the growth journey as solo work. You know, that's where it starts. It starts nutrition. I'm working on myself. But at some point, and this is why you got to start there, At some point, you got to recognize others that you can work with, you know, others that you can work with, that we are working on this thing while we are working on each other, and we're working on these other things, and we're learning from the work that each other is doing. You know, one of the biggest things, like if your life is not in a place that you're satisfied with, if your life is not in a place that you feel comfortable with, if you're at the place where you feel like you're constantly frustrated, constantly stressed, I'd ask you, are you wasting your relationships? That's the first place I take it. You know, after we deal with nutrition, are you wasting your relationships? You know, now this is hard for me, right? Because even me, my circle's so damn small, that motherfucker is a period. You know what I'm saying? But that's because, and this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. When your standards go up for yourself, they go up for your relationships too. You know? So a lot of people who want to be friends with me or want to be close with me, they don't really respect me. You know? I'm gonna help you here. A lot of people who want to be friends with me, they don't really respect me because I'm weird. I'm odd as a motherfucker. I am. And so it's really hard to be friends with me if you do not respect where I am in life. Because where I am is busy. Where I am is motivated. Where I am, I hate to use the terminology, I'm in hustle mode right now. I'm in grind mode right now. Where I am is a mastermind in this shit. So while most people are looking with friends to hang out at the beach, while most people are looking at friends to hang out at the clubs, while most people are looking for friends just to go to eat and shit like that, I don't have time for any of that. And when I say I don't have time, it's not even like I'm looking out my windows like, oh, I wish I could go to TGI Fridays today. Maybe after I get finished building this. No, I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I feel like I've grown up to do. And if every invitation for me is away from that, I'm going to have a hard time seeing that as respect. I grew up as a self-taught musician. And this is a wild story, but it's true. I had a hard time dating people because they could not respect my love for music. When I do music, I'm in it. I love it. I'm passionate. And so I'd go to my piano and I'd play. And I'd always tell people, listen, if I'm in my little mood and I'm playing my music, I don't like to be interrupted because it's an experience for me. I'm in a flow. I'm in a zone. I'm thinking through the words. I'm thinking through the melodies. You know, I'm thinking through what I can play next. But I'd have so many who just didn't give a damn. No matter how many times I tell them that. I'm playing, I'm in the zone. Come over. Oh, I love that song. Bitch, if you don't get your hand off my... No, I wouldn't do that. But in my mind, I'd be like, we had this conversation. Please don't do this. And I had to finally get to the place with myself where I say, that shit is disrespectful. That is disrespectful. I am literally telling you how important this is to me and what this is for me. And instead of you honoring that, you decide that your position in my life is to be the one person who can violate it. I'm not recruiting violators. I'm not here looking for the one person I'd let in my life to violate me, but that's how so many people treat relationships. That I should be able to violate you. Oh, I bet y'all ain't never heard nothing like this before, huh? No, you gotta think that thing through. So a lot of times people want to be friends with me and they think they want to be friends with me. They want to be friends with someone like me. You don't want to be friends with me. You have to be hungry to be friends with me. Because if we're hanging out, we're not hanging out eating. We're hanging out working. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I see it as me playing the piano in the zone and you coming and putting your fucking hand on my shoulder when I asked you not to. That's how I'm going to see it. It's always like, man, oh, damn, I hope this is good. I hope this is good. All right. So, and I had to share that. I had to share that in honesty, in transparency, right? Which shows that even in this model, my standards for relationships are so fucking high that my support system is me. You know? Okay, let's go. Let's go. But, and I will say, that is not the healthiest way to be. It's not. That is the circumstances that I find myself in, because I can't allow myself to become so toxic towards others that I try to force them to rise to my standards to make them fit so I can feel like I'm healthier. I can't play that game either. So what I have to do, like I used to say when I was a pastor, I got to play the hands that I was dealt. I got to play the hand I was dealt, you know. So I am looking for building out my support system. But the circumstances that I'm in now don't make it easy. So the filter process is like the only people who could be a part of my support system, they have to make it through the filtration. You have to make it through my busy ass schedule. You have to make it through my hyper-productive maniac times, which is every damn day for me. You know what I'm saying? And most people don't want that. Most people want a friend they can hang out with, but I don't hang out. That was just one of my truths. It's one of my truths. You may not meet people like me, but I'm not a hanger-outer. I realize that shit is boring as fuck to me. To me, I get why other people love it. And I'm so good at being around people that it could be looking like I'm loving it. And most times I'm leaving so disappointed. Like, damn, we had all these talented people in here tonight. We had all these incredibly smart people in here tonight and didn't do shit. We didn't come out with no idea. We didn't make no music, you know? And I'm hyper productive. I'm not saying everybody else needs to be there, but I'm hyper productive, you know? But when you do have a support system that's matching your pace and your rhythm, and that has some functionality, it actually increases, it impacts your cortisol levels, you know? Because now when challenges rise, you always have backup. So the insight here is that solitary problem solving can undermine both mental health and goal attainment. So, but intentionally wiring support in is essential, you know? And this third one, quality over quantity. And that's where I had to come to. It isn't about hundreds of contacts, just a handful of people who energize you. You know, deep empathetic ties drive outcomes more effectively than broad but superficial networks. The stronger your relationships with are with the people that you love and who are actually who are actually a part of your life, that we're, you know, this is how I view relationships at any level. And this is why it's a little difficult to do relationships with me. Because I just don't do ornamental. Relationships is an invitation to do some version of life together, some portion of life together. So which part of life are we doing together in this relationship? That's one of those questions, you know? Deep empathetic ties, they're going to drive those outcomes. And then shared vulnerability as a catalyst. When you have people that you can share your doubts with, these are people that you trust, their empathy can unlock solutions that you never imagined. And I think that's what becomes frustrating for so many of us, because what we're looking for is a safe place to share our issues. And we're looking for somebody's empathy to help us unpack that shit. So now nutrition matters before support, because only when you have self-trust and clarity can you really choose relationships that genuinely empower rather than drain you. And I really want you to think about that. Ask yourself, how many of my relationships did I choose How many of these relationships just happen? And it doesn't mean that they're bad relationships, doesn't mean that they're bad people, but you want to ask yourself, how many relationships in my life have I actually built on purpose? And if you realize that it's none of them, then you might have never built the muscle for building relationships intentionally, and you may be depriving yourself of some real valuable relationships. And so the next pillar is productivity, but I want to briefly hit why support is so important before the productivity level. And mind you, support isn't just having friends. It isn't just having people. It's having a system that you trust, right? So even if in the beginning you find yourself kind of like ran into the conclusion that I ran into, was just like, oh, I don't have a support system. So that means I need to figure out how I can be supportive of myself in the interim. Right? But no matter how disciplined you are, if your ecosystem is toxic or indifferent, God damn it, your efforts will falter. All right. Doesn't matter, man, doesn't matter how much work you've done, doesn't matter you ready to hit it. If the ecosystem you're attached to is toxic or indifferent to your growth, to your goals, to your ideas, then your efforts will falter. Support gives you the encouragement and the accountability you need to stay on course, right? And that's why I say it's not just about having friends, it's about having a system, an ecosystem. Is my ecosystem conducive to what I'm trying to achieve with my life, or what I'm trying to achieve at this moment? Do I have the type of support? Do I have the type of room that can help me get there? And if I realize, it's not just realizing will my ecosystem get me there? There's an other side of that. There's another side. It's not just, is this healthy enough to get me there? Is it healthy, period? If these people are toxic, or if this system is toxic or indifferent to me, then this is not my system. If my family is indifferent to me, then it's not my family. All right. We rocking and we're loading. So support gives you the encouragement and the accountability you need to stay on course. Now let's talk about productivity. And the goal here is to drive purposeful effort and discipline. You want to channel focus into meaningful contributions through structured effort and disciplined practice. So in the MasterMind model, productivity transforms vision into value, bridging intention with tangible impact. Beyond mere busyness, it demands flow-rich environments, strategic preparation, and a disciplined mindset that yields competitive advantage. So productivity is not just busyness. I've been busy my whole life. I didn't get productive until roughly 2017. I mean, you can say 2015, but I really kicked it up into high gear in 2017. And from that moment on, I've been damn near unrecognizable from anybody who sees me, anybody who knew me before. They do not recognize me today. And that is on purpose, because growth creates distance. You don't recognize me because you can't see me. I'm sorry, I had to go there. But growth creates distance, because I realized busy was what everybody was doing. Everybody was busy. And in 2017, I remember wrestling with myself. Darante, you've done all of these things. Why hasn't it moved your life forward? Because that's not what you were doing it for. It was busy work. You didn't sit down and plot this out and prepare and say, okay, if I do this, I might be able to get here. That's not what happened. You were just busy, just caught up in the busyness of life. Each day separated from the next. We're going to get up tomorrow and do the same thing over and over again. You weren't living intentionally, just going through the motions with everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Just going through the motions like everybody else. Like, nope. You can Be intentional. And as a matter of fact, now that you know that there's no God watching your back and directing your path, motherfucker, you have to be. Things in life aren't going to happen because you want them to. You're going to have to actually figure out how to make those things happen. You're going to have to figure out if those things can even happen. And that's what I wasn't doing before then. I was busy, but I wasn't being productive. All right. And watch this. I was trying to. Oh, man. I got a lot of friends right now that I call them lazy. They ain't trying to be lazy. I promise y'all. But they are. I've told them to their faces. They're not trying to be lazy, but they are being lazy. They don't know it. They don't know it because they have a worldview that promotes a way of approaching things that sounds good, but it's just bullshit. That's how I can recognize it within them. And that's also why I can be empathetic with the way that I handle them. Because I know they're not purposefully destroying their own lives. That's the damage that indoctrination does. You know, they believe the most harmful things about themselves because they didn't do well in school. So now they've codified this belief that, oh, I'm not a thinker. Oh, I can't learn stuff. So they've situated themselves somewhere in life and said, this is where I have to stay acclimated to. Oh, man. That's why I say the stuff I say. It's why I do the stuff that I do, because I have people that I love, and I've watched how superstition has robbed them of their own agency and their own autonomy. And it's not something that this shit is generational, you know? Okay, man. Oh, this is good. So let's talk about some healthy indicators for productivity. And the first one, I want to be very careful with this one. Because again, this framework is designed for people who are trying to change the world, people who are trying to do great things, entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, all that type of stuff. So this one will land on some people a little differently, but I'm going to help you out here. The first healthy indicator is competitive value in the marketplace. Now, what this means, I want to separate. I just want to unpack this. Healthy indicator, competitive value in the marketplace. I'm not saying that this means you can get your dream job. I mean, that's healthy. I'm not saying this means you're making six figures or whatever. I'm saying that when it comes to the thing that you want to do with your life, you've put enough into it where it's something you could feasibly make happen. That's what I mean, competitive value in the marketplace. So let's look at it this way. You say, I want to build, because, I'm an atheist and I like chicken, and I would like to eat chicken from a place that's not ran by bigots. That would be nice. And hopefully is actually open on Sundays, that'd be nice. And so I say, I want to start a Chick-fil-A replacement. I want to be the McDowell's of Chick-fil-A. And if you don't know what McDowell's is, I don't know if we can be cool. That's a joke, but it's still true. But I want to be the McDowell's of Chick-fil-A. I want to go out there and we're going to have the best customer service. We're going to have the best chicken. We got some really good Southern lemonade. And then we're going to have some T2 so you can do the 50-50 thing if you want to, get your Ernie Palmer going on, whatever. However, okay, so I say I want to do that. That's what I want to do. I want to do that. But I've never cooked a fucking chicken in my life. Never did one fillet ever in my life. No. That means you have an issue with your competitive value, your ability to offer something that is similar to what you're trying to compete with. You know what I'm saying? Now, and this is why I wanted to unpack this. This doesn't mean that you're not valuable, that you're not valuable, or that you're not valued, or that you don't have value. What this often means is you don't value your passion enough to work on it. You don't value your passion enough to get in the ring and see how it competes in the marketplace of ideas. Where does this stand? And if you're not doing that, then you're not giving yourself what I want to call you're not giving yourself the capacity of refining. So you're not even able to refine your ideas because they're not even out there competing in the marketplace of ideas, which is why, yes, even though not many other people are trying to do BridgeCity type stuff, I get out here and I model it anyway so that other people can see. And then I can refine it as I'm going. I refine as I'm going. When I used to counsel entrepreneurs, one of the most common things that I would say is like a failure flag, like, oh yeah, your business is going to fail. Not all the times, but one of the most common ones was when someone tells me they've had this idea since they was a little kid. Yeah, I've been wanting to do this ever since I was a little girl. I've been wanting to start this shop ever since I was a little girl. Okay. Now, the reason that's a flag, because it's rarely followed up with, I've been working on this idea since I was a little girl. It rarely follows up with, I've been studying this concept since I was a little boy. It's rarely that. It's just, I've been wanting to do this ever since then. All right. So this person goes out, lives their life, does whatever they're doing. And then one day they have an opportunity to do something that they've always wanted to do. And it's like, maybe they were scrolling on YouTube and saw some guru says, start your business today. What are you waiting on? All that good stuff. Thank God it's Monday type of shit. You know what I'm saying? They see that and they say, I'm going to start it. I'm going to start my business. And what they do is they go into the journal of that 12-year-old who has no real world insight, no real world perspective, and try to make that idea fit in a world where they have not tested it. Man, almost 99% of businesses I've seen start that way are closed within 5 years. And if they make it 5 years, I'm like, congratulations. And it's not because you necessarily had a bad idea. It's that you never put your idea through the scientific method. Because a part of superstitious ideology, a part of that afterbirth, is that science is cold. A part of that afterbirth is that if something is really important to you, then you throw science out of the window. If no. If it's just supposed to flow naturally. You shouldn't need science. All that flowing naturally got a lot of baby mamas out there, okay? Because we ignored the fucking science. Hallelujah. No. I used to tell people like, hey, please treat your marriage like a business. Do you know why you people treat their businesses like a business? Do you know why you treat your business like a business? You treat your business like a business because you do not want it to fail. You know why you don't treat your marriage like a business? Because you don't hold yourself accountable for making it succeed. Okay, I'm sorry. Went too far. Let's move on. All right. So this competitive thing in the marketplace, clear outputs, others recognize and reward. Another one is valuing discipline. All right. How do you look at discipline? And honestly, discipline is an uncomfortable word, right? But that's because in a Judeo-Christian society, discipline equals punishment. Discipline equals chastisement. Discipline equals condemnation. Rebuke. I rebuke you. But that's not what discipline is. Discipline is what you do to hit your goals. Discipline is what you do to hit your goals. I think one of the greatest realizations I came to as a parent was realizing that my job is not to punish my children, that my best job is to show them how their behaviors align with their goals. So while punishment is about some type of conviction, discipline is really just about behavior modification for attaining your goals. It's what I do with my life to hit my goals. That's how you know I'm disciplined. There was a very famous pastor. Well, he still is a famous pastor, even though he got caught cheating on his wife and then used the church's money to buy a Porsche or something. It was very crazy, very crazy. Y'all probably know what I'm talking about, but it happened. Probably don't know what I'm talking about because it happens to so many, right? But a very famous pastor, he had a show on the Oprah Winfrey Network. The Book of Grey, I think was what they called it, the Book of Grey. And my wife and I watched a few episodes, and I think it was like episode two. And he was, being transparent about his weight journey. He's a big boy. And I was a big boy back then too. I was a big boy. Y'all seen the pictures. And so I'm watching it, and he's talking about his weight issues. And then he's talking about like he has problem not being able to eat the chocolate cake and stuff like that. And I've hung out with this guy a few times, and so he wasn't lying. He liked to eat. But then in the very next episode, he starts talking about how he's so disciplined in fasting. And I'm like, wait now, damn 1 minute, because he was talking about how much he fasts. Sometimes I fast for 2 weeks, but you can't stop yourself from eating the chocolate cake. Something don't add up, And I think we maybe watched one more episode of the show, and I was like, I can't really watch this person. I really feel like he's lying. I don't think this person is disciplined at all. No, that's just me. And of course, that was a hasty, just to be honest, that was a hasty generalization, but I wasn't wrong. It's not fair to say that I was right because it was hasty, but it is fair to say that I wasn't wrong. Very shortly after that, all of his business hit. And I try not to get on stuff like that because I'm not a Christian. I don't care who's fucking anybody, so I don't care. I don't get on that. But all this shit came out. But that's oftentimes because even in the church culture, discipline is just punishment. It's not what I do to get to my goals. It's what I do to get your hand clap. It's what I do to get your applause. It's what I do to get your pat on the back. It's what I do to get that attaboy. Did I do good time? I did good this time? I did good. No. That should never be what discipline leads to. Discipline is what Michael Jordan did. That's discipline. I want to be better. I'm going to do what it takes to be better. And it became very clear to him that, okay, other athletes don't want it like this. So I really do. And so I'm just going to do what aligns with that. That's what discipline is. So it's embracing structure as an enabler, not a burden. And then even seeing preparation as process, to see planning and rehearsal as integral to success. Why? Because that's how the scientific method works. Treat your life like science. Next week, I'll have Forrest Valka here, science communicator. We're going to be talking about the hard sciences and the soft sciences and how you're likely sleeping on them. And to stop sleeping on the sciences. This is why I don't understand. Like when I deconverted, when I left the pulpit, the thing that pissed me off about the church, after everything I learned about sociology, the thing that pissed me off about the church is that they robbed us of real opportunities to understand the human experience. Because church is the only place we were doing these things. It was the only place we were singing together. It's the only place we're holding hands and lifting each other up. And there's science happening here. But ain't nobody in here cognizant enough to actually study it, to understand it, to observe it, and to communicate and to communicate it, contributed to the zeitgeist of the human experience. I was pissed because we robbed ourselves. Playing pretend. That's why I'm passionate about the work of BridgeCity. It's because I want those opportunities back. So next week we'll be talking, hey, don't sleep on the science. You got to get real comfortable treating your life like it's a science experiment. This is your science project. Let's go for the big prize, man. I get great joy out of being able to see what I could do with my life. That shit gives me fire, man. Being able to see what I could do with my experiment when I started treating myself like, oh, you're valuable. Treat yourself like it, bruh. All right, so let's talk about our unhealthy indicators for this one. And that's passivity. And if you'll notice, and it's kind of a theme in these, right? It's passivity. Waiting for the right moment or inspiration rather than creating that momentum. You know, I was there for a long time, man. I think anybody who knows me, who knew me personally, will tell you I was always waiting. I'm waiting for the right team. I'm waiting for the right squad. I'm waiting for the right woman. I'm waiting for the right pastor, waiting for the right mentor, waiting for the right partner, waiting for the right moment, waiting to be in the right city, you know? And all that is I'm scared. You know, that's it. It's just fear. That's what it was for me. I was passive because I was afraid, because I knew the life that I had, if I got it wrong, people were going to make it obvious. They were going to make it stink. They just weren't going to, they weren't just going to let it slide. They weren't just going to be like, hey, it's okay, Darante, you tried. That hasn't been my life. You know, you remember like what it was been like in school, and you're the one that typically gets the answers right. And then you raise your hand that one time and you get the answer wrong. And at first you're okay with it. You're like, oh, okay, I wonder what it was. But before you even get to sit with the questioners, oh, I wonder how I got that wrong. There's already, you got it wrong. What? You got it wrong? Mister, I know it all got the wrong answer. Look there. You get all that shit. You eventually lock yourself into a place where you don't ever want to try if you don't know for a fact that it's going to be right. You know what I'm saying? And so you spend your whole life waiting for somebody else's right moment instead of just getting out there and experimenting with creating the momentum yourself. Well, hey, if you ain't got nobody else, you can literally look at this channel. Nobody opened the doors for me. As a matter of fact, look at the impact we've been able to have in this short amount of time, and just notice how much my name is missing from. Because that's not even something I was waiting on anymore. I'm not waiting on anybody else to recognize that I'm a bad motherfucker. I watch my own damn mouth. You got me? All right, let's go. All right, so, and the other one, this is a hard one. And again, because this framework was not designed for BridgeCity. I'd never planned on sharing this stuff with my Sunday sessions community, because this is more harder stuff. And I'm trying to soften it a little bit, you know, because this really isn't meant for everybody. Some people feel condemned by stuff like this. And that's stuff that I try to be mindful of. But I just thought the timing was right. Oh, right time. See how I did that? All right, so let's go. Another unhealthy indicator. Again, this doesn't mean you're bad. This was my unhealthy indicator for me. Income dependent on external whims. Reactive income streams without personal agency. You know, man, like the worst thing in the world is, well, for me, is losing a job in a world where you don't have a support system. You know, and so when I finally realized, like, Darante, you don't have a support system, it began to become real clear to me why simple losses for me were absolutely devastating, and other people, they weren't. Because you lose your job and you got a mama who's going to kick in and help you pay the bills. I've never had that shit. You know what I'm saying? You lose your stuff, the family comes together, an outpouring of love. I didn't have that shit. My mother ruined any relational capital I could have with my family, because they were just going to see me as her child. So obviously he gonna do all the fucked up shit she did. And even though they couldn't articulate that, that's how they treated me. But that's also how they treated her. They treated her like her father's child. Her father killed her mother. Her mother was her family's sister and daughter. And so even though they had to take her in, they could never truly see her as their sister's daughter without seeing her as the man who killed their sister daughter. You see how that works? And so it creates generational trauma. And outside of people having some type of professional support, and we know that many African Americans did not have access to that, it breeds generational trauma. Now, the thing is, I don't wear the weight of fixing that shit. I tell my children the same thing. It's not your job to fix my generation's problems. It's your job to learn to learn from them and move forward. So, because that's what you have to do. Like you're here. This is your opportunity. You can't lean on the fact, well, my dad got it wrong, so I got to get it wrong too. The hell, don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. So, okay, sorry. Had to give that. And then, we got to roll. All right. And then, of course, viewing discipline as punishment. That is definitely an unhealthy indicator. Skipping routines when they feel hard is not really going to help you achieve your goals. And it's not even just about not achieving your goals. You're not going to learn about yourself. There's so many people who feel like they can't do what they don't actually try to do. And I'm like, this is what I want everybody to really understand, just from a really minimalist, humanist perspective. Nobody can do anything they've never done before. That's the reality. So every time you're doing something that you've never tried before, expect that shit to be hard. Expect it to be confusing. Expect it to be disorienting. But wax on, wax off. That's something that every athlete has had to learn. Hell, every cheerleader has had to learn. Every musician has had to learn. Every chef has had to learn that when you first start something, it is always hard because it's strange, it's new, it's unfamiliar. But oh shit, here it is. We are malleable. Man, you ever watch somebody training for gymnastics? Especially if you watch them when they first started and you be like, oh, I don't think this kid is going to do this. They're going to kill themselves. They're going to kill themselves or kill somebody else. You be like, they probably don't need to be doing this. They don't need to be doing this because it looks bad. It looks scary. It looks awkward. But the more they do it, their body adapts to learning how to do it. Their muscles start remembering this new information. Their mind starts remembering that you did this last time. Every time you try, you are building a knowledge base, of information that you get to carry into the next attempt. That's why it's so scary the first time, because your knowledge base is empty. Your mind has nothing to pull on to tell it how to feel about this experience. If I jump out a plane, parachute or not, my mind is going to freak the fuck out because it's going to know, hey, bro, we ain't did this before. I got nothing to pull from. But maybe I'll do it a second time if I survive. And a third time. Then by the fourth and fifth time, my mind has enough information to say, oh, we've been here before. I know how to get through this. That's what you have to learn how to give yourself, Ooh, man. All right, so key moments from this one. The goal is to move from busy work to breakthrough. So I used to equate all activity with progress. So if I'm doing something, something is getting done. Now I measure task outcomes, and that's when I started realizing that it's the disciplined sprints that give me my value, that produce the most value for me. The insight here is intentional challenge and skill balance. That's what's going to give you flow. It's going to outperform unfocused effort every time. And I want to highlight that. You want to intentionally align your current skill with the challenge. Because this is all about being honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, you're going to fuck yourself up and other people. People who are the most toxic in other people's lives are people who have not learned how to be honest with themselves. Okay? So you want to say, this is my skill, my level of skill. What's a challenge that I'd be interested in that is appropriate for that level of skill? Do not set yourself up for failure. Don't go pick something that you ain't never tried before, because you're going to, in most cases, you're going to demoralize yourself as soon as you don't hit that goal. It's okay to hack yourself. Some people cheat. Some people feel like that's cheating, and that's the weirdest thing to me. To choose the thing that you can do, you feel like that's cheating? No. Choose the thing that you can do so you can remind yourself that you can do it, which adds another memory of you doing something. And then you begin to build that up. Snowball effect, compound. You know, preparation is a competitive edge. Top performers don't wing it, they ritualize practice. You know, I have a pre-performance checklist out of this world. It's my secret weapon, which I'm giving some of it giving some of it to you now. It's the mastermind model. If when I'm not liking where I am in life, I'm going all the way back to that first pillar, nutrition. What am I listening to? What am I exposing myself to? How much of the agitation that I'm feeling right now is me and life, and how much of it is just the shit I've been picking up through media consumption? Am I really mad, or is my favorite character on the show that I binge watch every day mad? You know what I'm saying? If there's some answers that I'm not finding myself, being like, if I'm in a place in life and I'm like, I need to be able to do this in order to move forward. If this is a big ass question mark for me, that means I need to inject information into my information diet that is going to meet that need, fill that gap, right? So if you're struggling financially and you've not read any financial books, see, that's where you want to start, you know, or not even just the books, YouTube that shit. And not even just YouTube, what you want to do for whatever, this is what I challenge everybody to do. I challenge whatever is the most important goal in your life right now, whatever's the most important goal in your life, that kind of needs to determine what information you're exposing yourself to, as far as the majority of information. You know, no, let me watch some of these lectures. Let me watch some of these conferences. Let me watch some of these business meetings. Let me hear some of these so-called experts. And you're not listening. You're not watching to find somebody else's answer. You're giving yourself this information so you have enough information to connect the dots and navigate it for yourself. But you will not get there if you're not intentionally exposing yourself to that type of information. As a matter of fact, you're setting yourself up to be manipulated by somebody who knows that you're interested but not disciplined. Because then they can show up and say, hey, I can tell you how to get rich. I'm the Wall Street trapper. Do what I say. And because you have not actually exposed yourself to any of the information in this arena, you do not have the ability to determine if they're being truthful or not. And so what are you going to use to make that decision? You're going to lean into that superstition. How does this make me feel? You know, is everybody excited about it? Are people popular? You're going to look for all of these shortcuts to make a decision because you don't understand the information. And so what I'm trying to help people to do, one of the things I remind people to do, is take yourself back to the information. But that starts with trusting yourself, even when it's hard. You know, I don't know if you remember your first time reading a newspaper. First time, like as a middle schooler transitioning into adulthood or whatever. First time. That shit probably seems so crazy. What the fuck am I reading? Why would anybody read this? That's how it is with everything, y'all. Everything. Do not use something being hard or something being difficult as a sign that you can't do it. Always have that understanding that it's difficult, it's hard. I don't understand this because I've never done this. But if I do this more, I'll get it. I'll eventually get it. That's so simple. But so many of us have separated ourselves from that understanding. And then structured preparation embeds competence and signals reliability, you know? So you want to create your discipline, use your discipline as creative fuel. When discipline feels like a chore, you got to find a way to reframe it as the gateway to your freedom. So when people see me working the way that I work, they think, you know, they're like, man, you shouldn't work so hard. You're working too hard. And I'm like, I get it. I know there are people out there who feel that way. I don't. This is freedom for me. That's like when people tell me that. Let me tell you the picture I get in my mind. When people say you're working too hard, you shouldn't have to work this hard. When people say, slow down, man. Why are you in such a hurry? Because this is freedom. I'm running to freedom. Can you imagine finally having a chance to escape? You've made it off the plantation. and you are running with your whole life. You are running with your whole chest. And you hear somebody saying, slow down. Why are you running so fast? You don't understand then. You don't understand the bondage that I'm separating from. Damn, this is good. Shit. Okay, let's go. Let's go. So the insight here is that discipline cultivates autonomy over your time and over your craft. A strong support network sustains the discipline and feedback loops you need to maintain high quality effort over time. So that's why the support is needed to help you get here. Otherwise, it will feel like you're draining yourself. But then the next pillar is tolerance. And even the most open-minded culture will struggle if your own output is sporadic or unfocused. So productivity gives you the bandwidth to engage others constructively. So now let's unpack tolerance. Now, this is about fostering two things. Many times when we talk about tolerance, we're talking about empathy. But there's another part of tolerance. Tolerance is not just empathy, it is also resilience. All right. So tolerance is empathy and resilience. It is your ability. The objective here is to embrace diversity and difficulty. Can you do both of them? Can you embrace diversity and difficulty? That's the whole point of tolerance in this part of the model. And can you anchor success in collective responsibility? So in the MasterMind model, tolerance equips you to navigate complexity, transforming challenges into growth. Beyond emotional resilience, it demands active empathy, openness to difference, and a sense of shared purpose. So let's hit some of these healthy indicators before we move to the unhealthy ones. So a healthy indicator that you're in a good spot with your tolerance is that you have the ability to recognize others, right? You notice and value diverse perspectives and strengths. That's tolerance. So as y'all know, we've been reformatting our Discord for a while. I've become much more hands-off with it, primarily because February, I lost my job, went into mastermind mode. So, but anytime something is happening in the Discord, what I like to do is actually pull somebody else and ask them. So I saw a conversation earlier this week, and I was like, "Ooh, I feel like this person might be coming off a little hard, and I don't know if they're going to be rubbing other people the wrong way." Now, let me tell you what I don't do. I don't make the decision that because I think that's what's happening, that is what's happening. I don't do that. I don't do that. There's a certain bit of self-awareness that I have where I say, okay, I may see it that way, but I could be tripping. And that's like one of the things, like in order to work with me, you do kind of got to have that reflex to say, I see it as this, and I'm going to treat it like this, but I could be tripping. That's just, it's something that keeps me humble a little bit, So what I would do is I bring them in. I bring somebody else in who has nothing to gain from it. And I say, hey, listen, I saw this in the Discord. I saw this exchange, and it was between such and such and such and such. It looks like it got a little rough, and the person seems like they're being a little antagonistic. That's what it looks like for me. But before I make any decision, y'all tell me what y'all think. Am I tripping? And that's what I like to do. I like to operate it that way because it helps me stay tolerant. It helps me make sure that we are being both empathetic and being resilient, right? Because what the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, something's bad happening, kick them out. That's the knee-jerk reaction. But then when you do that, what you're really signifying is I can't tolerate difference. Can't tolerate something I don't know what it is. It's that uncanny valley type of situation. And it's like, no. What you want to do is to learn how to deal with difficulty. Okay? Oh man. So So being able to recognize others, being able to recognize the voice that they bring in the conversation. So instead of me just saying, I'm going to make these decisions, we're going to look at other people and see what do you see? Because I recognize I recognize your value and I value your voice, right? And of course, and that also, it also helps people see that you value their strengths too. And so those are really easy things that we can do. If you're in the Discord and someone says something that you think is offensive to you, a good practice is to reach out to somebody else and say, hey, I felt like this person was attacking me. Can you just take a second look at it and see if it's that? And it might validate, like, yeah, that shit does kind of look bad, bro. Or it might be like, oh, I don't think it really looks like that, which I think some of you who have been in Discord, you've seen me do that. I'll read something and something got wrong with two people or something. I'll go in there and I'll say, well, I think this is a misunderstanding because the way that I read it, it looked like this person was saying this and, this just went off course. And when we can all be, emotionally healthy, which I'm not making that a mandatory thing. I ain't got that superpower. You know what I'm saying? And so we all have to be mindful that some people aren't emotionally healthy. Life is hard for people, but when we are all emotionally healthy, we can typically bounce through stuff like that fairly easy, but when you can't, it's hard. It's hard, man. So success, so next healthy indicator, success becomes a shared responsibility. Damn, I'm talking too much today, y'all. Shit. But success becomes a shared responsibility. So, and this one is a little raw, so I won't go into too many details, but someone who was very close to me on the team, or getting close to me on the team, is no longer on my team, and it was unfortunate, but it is a requirement to me that you be able to work with other people. You can't do community work and not work with other people. And so while I would never dehumanize anybody, or at least I don't want to say never because it's an absolute and I'm frail just like everybody else, but I do my best to never dehumanize anybody. I can't, if people are not going to work together, the red flag of that is, then this is not a shared success. If we're not working together, we are not sharing the journey, And so we had to part ways. That's kind of the line. The line is, if you're going to work with me, you got to work with people. That's literally, I think I just talked about that last week. That's literally the most important thing, is working together, All right. And so when you have that shared responsibility of success, you celebrate collective wins and you uplift your peers. You crave that diverse and that challenging experience. You seek out new viewpoints and tasks. One of the things that sometimes discourages me a little bit is the amount of people who are expecting everybody they meet within this community to have the exact same viewpoints that they have, which then at that moment, it means you are looking just for a replacement of another cult. Diversity is very important to me, and it means a lot of things to me. But because it's important to me, the one thing that I am sure of is that there's nobody around me who's going to see everything the way that I see it. Not if I value diversity. No. And the thing is, I don't value diversity just for diversity's sake. I value diversity because diverse data flows strengthens my understanding of the information. Oh man, this is so good. This is so good. So to enhance that tolerance, when you know you're in a healthy place with your tolerance, you're okay with conflicting information and you're okay with challenging situations. You're going to navigate them. You're going to work through them. You're going to seek out information that does not confirm your values because you're working on that area of your life. And again, it's not just about, I mean, it is about treating people right and having more unity and stuff like that. But it is also about strengthening your ability to exist, to perform, to produce, to grow, and to flow. That's where it is. Let's talk about some unhealthy indicators. This is one. I did talk about this one. I think I talked about this in Black Nonbeliever Next Door a little bit, because it's one I've been studying for a long time. And it's one that I do like to kind of warn us against. And that's that march towards sameness. You know, that's an unhealthy indicator. You gravitate to like-minded groups to avoid discomfort. Let me be clear here. There's nothing wrong with looking for like-minded groups for productivity. There's nothing wrong with looking for like-minded groups to get things done, to become a part of a solution. But if your whole point of looking for like-minded groups is to avoid discomfort, then you are always going to be tearing your group down when it's not comfortable. I am preaching better than y'all are responding, because then at that moment, what you're looking for is somebody else to make you comfortable before they even know what comfort is for you. So, you know, like as a content creator, as someone who speaks all the damn time, people are quick to tell me when they disagree. They are quick to let me know, I disagree with you. I don't like that you said that. Well, I don't think that's how it is. And what they don't understand is I don't give a fuck. I wasn't saying it for you. I was saying it for me. I said it's because it's what I thought. And I have no expectation for everybody to agree with me. But even if you don't agree with me, that shit has no utility in my life. I don't even know why you wasted your words like that. Why would you do that? Because what you will see about me is that's not something I do. People, man, I see people say shit that I disagree with all the time. Unless I find what they're saying to be, unless I find that what they're saying is harmful, damaging, I'm just like, oh, if it's just like a minor disagreement, I'm going to treat them like a fucking human being that's not me, and say, well, they would likely come to a different conclusion because they've had a different lived experience. For me to expect anybody to 100% align with everything I think about the world is superstitious. I have that expectation of nobody. And so if I do meet somebody that aligns with me on everything, I'm probably going to be freaked the fuck out. I might even be a little suspect. Like, motherfucker, you been following me? Is that been you in my closet? You know, type of situation. All right, so another unhealthy indicator, self-focus. Self-focus. Oh, and I did see the super chat. Thank you, One-Eyed Heathen, $5. I love that. I appreciate y'all, man. Self-focus. Your concerns dominate conversations. Others' views feel invisible. You know? So you get to a place where you end up getting into just self-centered success. You equate achievement solely with personal gain. This is why I'm not bothered at anybody who tries to attach or attack my character because I have several streams of income. My income is not about personal gain. If that's what you think, you've not paid attention. You don't know who I am. But I don't need you to either, because I'm still going to do me. Just don't need your permission at all. Never even asked. You know? But the reason I'm unmoved by that stuff, man, I've had people jump on my stuff. Oh, he's a capitalist. Look at him selling books. I don't give a fuck what you think. I don't have the privilege to be a capitalist, a socialist, or a communist. I'm a black man in America. That's it. You get it? But I'm not moved by any of it. I'm not. Because I know my why. I know what I'm doing this for. And anybody who doesn't know hasn't watched my videos. I talk about me unashamedly. I love myself, you know, but I'm doing it because I want to change the world. And that's funny because there is a little sad poetry there. I did not learn how to love myself until I realized how much I loved the world. And it was the change that I wanted to make in the world that forced me to learn how to love myself, because I realized I'd never be able to help this world if I could not help my fucking self. Bars. Another super chat, $1.99. We are all walking contradictions. I love it. Ichabod in the chat, $10. Thank you, sir. Preacher. I'm going to do the best that I can, man. I'm going to do the best that I can. So key moments from this one before we go to our last little pillar here is the biggest thing is really moving from echo chambers to growth zones. Now, I don't use the phraseology echo chambers a lot because I think the word gets overused, almost like narcissist. Once we learn a phrase, man, it's in the zeitgeist, and we're just going to use it every time we hear it, like gaslight. But you got to get to the place where you can realize that your most greatest breakthroughs, they come when you sit with ideas that you initially resist. And it doesn't mean that you end up getting to accept the ideas. Sometimes me wrestling with ideas that I initially resisted allows me to get a better understanding of, number one, why I resisted, because that's always a fair question. It's always a fair question. When you find yourself dealing with an idea or an ideology that you are resistant to, a fair question is to ask yourself is always why. Because that's a reminder, that's a refresher. Why am I resistant to this idea? Is it because of something I knew back then that has likely been updated, or is it something that I'm still solid on? There's nothing wrong with that, right? So you ask yourself those questions and allow yourself to sit with that. This is going to help you sharpen your shit. That's the best way I can say it. So the insight becomes exposure to challenging viewpoints accelerates cognitive flexibility and innovation, And then even this also impacts collective accountability. When we can reframe success as our team's growth, as our community's growth, then recognition shifts from individual praise to shared impact. And that's really where we want to get to go. This is one of the reasons I was or still am, like, just very uncomfortable with the idea of people always wanting to talk to me, because I'm like, I'm not the value add to the community. The community itself is the value add. Talking to me, it's just going to be a bunch of platitudes. It's going to be a bunch of, man, you're so great. And that's not going to move your life forward at all. But talking to some of these other people who are attracted to the same vision that you were attracted to, you're likely going to find some people that you can really build some sustainable things with. Even if it's nothing but a book club and Discord, you're able to find some people that can help you get back passionate about your interests, so you can start making a difference in your life, so that we can all start making a difference together. Oh, this is good. And so in view of viewing achievement through a communal lens, strengthens bonds and multiplies outcomes, And this also gives us resilience through empathy. Stepping in other people's shoes wasn't just compassionate. It taught me adaptability under stress. And y'all, that's what I'm telling you. This is where you're missing it at. This is the gold. There is so much gold and just learning how to be empathetic to other people. There is so much gold in just hearing people out, even when you disagree with them. There's a type of decorum, a type of diplomacy. There's gold in it, man. There's gold in it. You start learning just how fluid, how flexible, how adaptive we really are. Man, talk to some people you disagree with, in a low stakes conversation. Don't make it a high stakes conversation. Don't do that shit to yourself. But talk to somebody you disagree with about something low stakes and see how it helps you understand things, even if you don't agree, because that's not the goal. The goal is to give you more information, to expose you to more information, so that you can be confident in the data points that you're wrestling with, instead of just possibly rehashing popular propaganda, which we are all prone to, right? Prone to. Prune is a different thing. But anyway, and so the insight here is empathetic perspective taking builds emotional agility, reducing reactivity in conflict. So productivity sets the stage because you need proven execution skills, so that when conflicting ideas arise, you have the confidence and track record to integrate them rather than discard them. That's how your productivity helps your tolerance. But then tolerance becomes necessary before this last pillar, which is called cooperation. Tolerance is absolutely necessary before you can really get into this place of cooperation with others. To collaborate effectively, you must first be comfortable with discomfort and difference. Tolerance primes you to listen deeply and adapt rather than retreat. Excuse me. Let me get some water. So let's hit this last pillar and we're going to roll out. I cannot believe I've been in this for 2 hours now. And this is, I love talking about stuff like this because, and I'm hoping that I've said something today that gives you some tools, gives you some resources, gives you some actionable insight to put it work for yourself. So this last one is cooperation. And the goal here is just to master intentional living through collaboration. When I first decide to make this the pinnacle of this model, this model does have a sense of hierarchy to it. Sociologists, we can't help ourselves, Maslow's hierarchy, but it does have a sense of hierarchy to it. And I decided to put cooperation at the top because that's my real goal. I realized that my real goal for the type of world change that I want to be a part of, I don't know if I'll be a part of it, but this type of world change that I want to be a part of is that I'd have to have a life that cooperates with me. And that's one of the reasons, like, I've been fighting so hard over the past 10 years to reframe my life, because when I deconverted and deconstructed, it was just like, man, my life doesn't cooperate with me. You know, I can say I want to help anybody, but my life is not going to cooperate with me to make it happen. I can say I want to do anything, but my life is not going to cooperate with me to make it happen. And so that's how this became the pinnacle of this model, because the goal for me was to get into a place where my life feels like it's cooperating. You ever feel like your life just ain't cooperating? You know, and I was like, that was the goal. When I first started building this out, I want to get to a place where my life feels like it's cooperating. So the objective is to translate vision into collective impact through purposeful collaboration and choice. In the mastermind model, cooperation fuses individual autonomy with communal strength, enabling you to act on healthy impulses, expand your capacity, and live by intentional processes. Saddest thing about growing up, you know, in poverty is that you realize that you learn to censor your impulses because you end up teaching yourself the lesson that life looks different for other people and you'll never be able to experience that life. And so in the simple place, you know, like there's a place in my city called Mikata's. It's a Japanese steakhouse. I've never eaten there in my life. Number one, I'm just not that big into steaks, you know, and I grew up poor, so I still have some weird issues with money, right? Like I do. I'm like, that's a lot of money for that food that I could just make at home, you know. And you grow up poor, you get used to eating other things. And I'm like, man, a Totino's pizza would do it just fine for me. I think I'm okay. And then I can get to save that money and get some shit that I actually want. So I got issues like that. But it's like knowing when you're growing up, it's like, you know, knowing when you're growing up that there's something I want and I can't get it. You know, there's something I want and I can't get it. There's something I want to do and I can't do it, you know? So for me, maybe it wasn't, but I just use that example because people like steak. But if I was just feeling like steak and wanted to go to Mikata's, that shit wouldn't happen. It ain't even happening now. That is not in the budget now. I took my family out to eat this weekend. We went to Shoney's player. Now let me stop. But that is true. It is true. So let's talk about some of these healthy indicators here. Healthy indicators that your life is getting to that place where it's cooperating with you is that you have the ability to act on your healthy impulses. You know, you can initiate projects aligned with values and skills. And this is so much deeper than money. Man, I realized that I was getting close to that place when if I had an idea, I could come to my office, I could come to my lab, and I could turn that idea into reality. And not only turn that idea into reality, but then also distribute it out into the world. That's what I've done with my books. That's what I do with my channel. That's what we're doing with Windows Shop. That's what I'm planning on doing. That's what I'm planning on doing with Omniverse, is taking the stuff that's important to me that I want to do and doing it. And that's what I mean by saying I want my life to be in a place where my life is cooperating with me. If there's something important that I want to do, I want the capacity to do it. If there's some impact that I want to make, I want the capacity to make it. I don't want to have to check in with somebody else. You know, that's what I'm working on. And right now, on a very small scale, I have that. On a very small scale, I have that, you know. But I've been working this model for the past few years in my life. Another healthy indicator is that you see life as an intentional process. Every group endeavor follows clear design and purpose. You're not really leaving a whole bunch of stuff to chance. You're thinking it through, and you're trusting yourself to navigate the nuance of the variable, of the variable change. You're watching all of that. And then the third one is freedom to explore capacity. And that's so important. You prototype, you iterate, and you learn in supportive groups. You're not expecting yourself to get it all right this first time. You're okay learning in small chunks. This is when you're getting into a place where you're okay with cooperating with life, right? Some unhealthy indicators, limited options, right? Like this, again, you're literally getting insight to where I was, because that's what this model was built to take my life from point A to where I'm at now, and I'm still on the journey, And so, unhealthy indicator, limited options. Collaboration feels conditional on approval or hierarchy, which means one of the places I was at that I was absolutely frustrated with is that there is nothing that I want to do that I feel like I can do without somebody else's approval or without somebody else's validation. Oh man, I didn't want to be there anymore. And I'm not, Oh, it just feels so good to breathe in that. It's like, I'm not. I decide what I want to do, and then I give it a try. That's how I go. I'm going to be really vain for a moment because I've been wanting to say this, and the intrusive thoughts are there. I've been shadow boxing lately, and I got to say, it is looking good on you, boy. I've never seen myself look this good in a t-shirt before in my life. And so I'm like, damn, what are these? Are they coming up? Oh, shit. So I'm sorry. I had to go vain there for a little bit. It was happening. Back to regularly scheduled programming. So another one, need for external resources. You can't start without outside permission or funding. And again, that's not always a money thing either, right? And that's what's so amazing, because in my mind, when I first thought this through, when I first built that out, that's what it was. That was absolutely financial. I can't do anything because somebody else got to pay me to do it. Somebody else got to pay it to make it happen. That's where I was. I was stuck there. But then I realized that was a superstition too. Oh man. There are so many things I've done over the past few years that I would have never tried before, because I would have said, you cannot do that if you don't have the money. Nah, bruh. I'll find a way. Oh, I'll find a way. I've jerry-rigged a lot of things in my life. Trust me, I will find a way. And that's what I've been doing. And it's so fun. It's so amazing, because you get to live and you get to explore and you get to learn. And you're learning stuff that you would have never had the opportunity to learn before if you did not get into that ring and wrestle with that shit. Oh, I love it. Sorry. Reactive living is another one. You wait for opportunities instead of co-creating them. That's the invite that I'm giving anybody who's working with me in anything. That's the invite. The invitation is partnership. The invitation is to get in here and co-create. You know what I'm saying? We're not waiting for an opportunity. We are making a movement. No, we're not waiting on somebody else's momentum. We're building the wave. Man, I'm almost ready to play the song. We built a movement over 10,000 strong. How did we do this? How did we last so long? No, you're not waiting for opportunities. You're trusting yourself to get in and co-create. You are the opportunity. Do we got to go back to last week? All we need is what? Space and opportunity. You are the opportunity. You're not waiting for somebody else to make it happen for you. You're becoming a part of what's making it happen. All we need.
Is that what it is? You want some of this? Hey, you know what? There ain't nothing to it but to do it. You know what I'm saying? All we got to do is push this to the side. It's nothing but space and opportunity here. You know what I'm saying? Do you want some of this?
So use the space and opportunity to co-create, shifting from lone genius to networked impact. Big ideas don't necessarily require overnight insight. It comes from co-creating with peers. That's when you see progress multiplies. But a lot of people are going to have a hard time transitioning to be able to see themselves as capable as co-creators. Because let's be honest, that's not really what we've built over here in the West. What we've built are systems where everybody comes in to serve the big guy at top, you know? So you're not co-creators. You're just lucky to have a job here at Google or Walmart. You know, it's like, nah, I want something different. And I believe it's more sustainable when instead of continually catering to this worldview that puts some people up here and other people down here, we shift into a worldview where everybody matters regardless of where you are. Hello. Okay, let's roll it out. I got to go. All right. Insight here is diverse skills and shared ownership accelerates innovation beyond solo effort. I mean, think about it. As much as I've been able to get done in a year, imagine if I just had a team of 5 partners, 5 co-creators, each skilled in a different area. Imagine. That's the power of partnership. Squad up, you know. Every successful initiative begins with some type of charter, a defining purpose, roles, and norms. Get comfortable with that. Figure out what that is for whatever you're doing in your life. I'd suggest everybody, I think it's EDX or Google EDX or whatever. They have Coursera. They have some project management courses. If you don't want the certification, you can take the courses for free. I'd suggest almost everybody take project. If you're trying to do anything with your life, take a project management class. Take it. If it's free, take it. Take it, JT. Anyway, all right, let's go. And then you can get to the place in that cooperative era where you embrace iteration over perfection. You know? So like now I've released several apps. I've worked on several different websites, applications, software. And my goal, you know, my when I first built my first app, it was a monstrosity, but it was amazing. I built like a clone of Netflix, but for musicians, you know. But I was just testing myself, and so I built out the whole thing. But now I've learned how to get really comfortable with building the smallest version of it that I can, just to prove the concept. But I was afraid of doing stuff like that before, because I felt like, you know, if I'm working on it, then it has to be big, it has to be the best, and it has to be complete, because that's the kind of pressure that society puts on you sometimes. When you say, here's my little project, you want to be a part, well, it ain't perfect. And so I had to get away from stuff like that, which meant that I actually learned faster and learned how to build confidence to scale, you know? So collaboration thrives when teams prototype rapidly and treat failure as feedback. Let's say that again. Treat failure as feedback, not final, you know? And so obviously, cooperation is the culmination of this model, because only after mastering yourself with your nutrition, building your network with your support, executing with discipline in your productivity, and embracing the difference with tolerance, can you intentionally harness collective strength. Tolerance was the precursor, because tolerance gives you that emotional and cognitive flexibility to navigate diverse idea, which is the bedrock of high impact collaboration. So as we've journeyed through the MasterMind model, and I did not expect to be in here for over 2 hours, from grounding ourselves in purpose to clarifying our inner blueprint, from wiring in empowering relationships, channeling disciplined effort, and embracing growth through challenge, and finally fusing individual strength into collective momentum, each pillar has been built on the last. If you are a person who is saying to yourself, there's some more things I've wanted to do, there's some more ways that I wanted to contribute, there's a greater difference that I want to make in the world, but I'm unsure if I'm where I need to be personally, this model is something that exists for that reason, to help you get there. So if you're one of those people who say, man, I would love to help Darante do something, but I don't feel any confidence, today was your conversation. This sequence isn't arbitrary. It mirrors how human systems evolve from the single cell to complex organisms, and from solitary insight to world-changing movements. Skipping a step risks shaky foundations, but honoring the order ensures every subsequent phase lands on solid ground. So here's your kickoff challenge. Map out your baseline, grab a journal, rate yourself on 1, healthy versus unhealthy. Do it nutrition, production, tolerance, support. Be honest with yourself, because your starting point is your springboard. Where are my healthy indicators at? Start with nutrition. Where are my unhealthy indicators at? And then choose one micro action from your baseline. Pick a single bite-sized practice, whether it's for nutrition, like maybe unfollowing one toxic feed, or if it's support, schedule a 15-minute check-in with a trusted peer. Or productivity, write down 3 must-do tasks before going to bed. And then share your commitment. You can post it in the chat or tag an accountability partner with your micro action. Research shows, and I am not just saying this, that public commitment doubles follow through. If you're planning on doing something, it's important to you. When you make that thing public, it's almost like proof that it's important, because now you're inviting other people to hold you accountable. And so at the end of the week, revisit your ratings, celebrate those small wins, troubleshoot the setbacks, and plan your next set of micro actions. This iterative cycle is the engine of lasting transformation. By weaving together clarity, connection, discipline, empathy, and collaboration, each in its intentional turn, you'll not only mind your life, you'll master it. So now, if you value weekly conversations like these, will you tag somebody in the chat and say, this is so much better than church? Because honestly, it is. Finally, something we can do with our weekends that actually lifts us up and brings us together. Consider inviting someone to join the experience with you next time, and let's keep rising together. Now, before I let you go, I do have some announcements, and I got some things to do. I'm gonna make it short, but I do have a few announcements. And of course, like I told y'all, we started something new last weekend. So we're giving out free digital downloads at the end of every live show for our top 3 commenters. So stay tuned for the end of the announcements for that. Announcements are very brief today. We have next Sunday, Forrest Valkai is going to be here with me in conversation. We're going to be talking about not sleeping on the science. Forrest comes from a hard science background. I come from a soft science background. My background is social science. His is biology. So I'll just do sociology. My background is sociology. His is biology. So we're going to bring our ologies together, and we're going to have some real conversation about how what we learn from science helps us grow, can be motivating, can be inspirational, can be encouraging, and can even give us a more solid approach to approaching life, which you see I'm obviously an advocate of. Also, Dr. Bird will be back the week after that. So on July 13th, Dr. Bird will be with us for a conversation on Paul, women, and ministry, which I'm super excited about. Her live with us on this channel has been our most viewed live session. That's amazing. And then on July the 20th, I'm having Dr. Darrell Ray with us. He'll be joining us for the first time, and we're going to be having a conversation all about sex. So please make sure you are here for all of those conversations. If you know anybody who'll be interested, make sure you go ahead and share the link with them now so they can hit those notification bells. Now let's see who our top 3 today are. Damn, I am so shocked. I'm looking at the board. Number 1 is Ichabod. Brady Goodman. Ichabod, number 1. Raise a Village, number 2. And Pragmatic Crystal, number 3. That's 500 XP for Ichabod, 300 XP for Raise a Village, and 225 XP for Pragmatic Crystal. That is amazing. I love it. So all 3 of you qualify for a free digital guide from Window Shop. So if you want it, email me at dl@dldd.us, and I will send you the coupon code as well as the link to all of our digital guides. So you can go straight there and you just pick whatever one you want. Doesn't matter how much it costs. It can be one of my really expensive ones. You can get it for free. Isn't that nice? But that's a little thing we're doing to do 2 things. Number 1, to show you all how much we appreciate you and how much we absolutely love your support. But then also to give for some people who may not have the ability to access these things, to give them an easier way to access. One thing that I love about these guides, especially with there being so many of them out now, because I think we have over 30 digital content guides on the channel or on Windows Shop now. And the guide from today is on there, or the guide for today's topic is on there. So for those winners, you can use one of those if you'd like to. But it's just so incredible, because now for people who are like, I've been wanting to have conversations with other people, I just don't know where to start. These guides work almost like pamphlets, man. You can just get together a few people and say, hey, let's have a conversation about blood theology. And you got a whole guide with reflection prompts, psychological information, sociological information. You're getting insight out of the wazoo. So it's something that you can use for your personal study, or if you're feeling like you can take that leap and do some group studies with other people, maybe sponsor them at your local library. It's a perfect tool for that. So I love that. All right, but that's it, man. I've held y'all way longer than I planned to. This one got excited. I don't even think I preached as hard as I normally preached, but this was such good information. I love you all. I hope you all got something incredibly valuable out of this today. Before we leave, I'm gonna let y'all, I'll play a new meditation tape at the end of this, but I love you all. And until next time, keep rising. All right, motherfucker, you showed up again. That's something. That's strength. You gave yourself a damn minute to breathe, to pause, to check in with your own crazy ass life. Today, we're diving into the shit that most people run from. Your fucking emotions. Yeah, those messy, beautiful, infuriating ass feelings. They're not your weakness. They're part of your power. Every feeling you've had, it's a part of your story. The highs, the heartbreak, the rage, the peace. Let that shit flow. All of it matters. Let's get into it. Sit your ass down and get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop like all that stress you've been carrying. Let your hands fall easy. Now close your damn eyes. Take a deep ass breath in through your nose. Hold that shit. Now exhale slowly like you mean it. Again, inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Now exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now picture this. Your emotions are a river, flowing, wild, peaceful, fucking real. See that water moving through you. Memories, moods, madness, joy, pain, anger, love. All of it just moving through, not stuck. You don't need to fight that river. You damn sure don't need to control it. Just watch it flow. Feelings come and feelings go. Some sit with you for a while. Others dip in and out like they forgot something. But none of them are permanent. And none of them define who the hell you are. Now think back. Remember a time you were fucked up emotionally, but you made it through. You didn't die. You didn't disappear. You felt it. You survived it. Maybe you cried your damn eyes out. Maybe you cursed the sky. Maybe you went silent, but you're still here, aren't you? That's resilience, motherfucker. That's strength. Take one last deep-ass breath and exhale, giving thanks for the fact that you can feel. For real, that shit's a gift. Now when you're ready, open your damn eyes. Let's try this affirmation together. My emotions are valid as fuck, and I've got the strength to deal with them with clarity and compassion. Yeah, let's say it again, like you mean it. My emotions are valid as fuck, and I've got the strength to deal with them with clarity and compassion. You can handle life's emotional punches. You got grace and grit, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Let your damn self feel, grow from it, own it, be about that human experience. Give yourself fucking permission to feel deeply and to respond like the emotionally intelligent badass you're becoming. Let's get ready for story time. One day, a big ass storm rolled through a forest. Trees were standing all tall and shit, proud like they couldn't be touched. Then the winds came, the rain hit, and guess what? Those hard-ass trees snapped like matchsticks. But one little willow tree, that motherfucker bent, that motherfucker swayed, but he didn't resist. It flowed with the storm, and when the skies cleared, that willow was still there, standing, breathing, alive. The lesson? Being hard ain't the same as being strong. Real resilience, it's about flexibility, feeling what you feel, rolling with it, learning from it. Don't let your emotions define you. Let them shape your fucking strength. Let me share this proclamation with you. I want you to use this. Today, I honor the shit my emotions have taught me, and I commit to growing from it. Period. Say that shit with your chest now. Today, I honor the shit my emotions have taught me, and I commit to growing from it. Now here's your move. Share one moment, just one, where you overcame an emotional ass whooping. Tell somebody who's earned your trust. Don't fake it. Don't hide that shit. Connection is how we build resilience, motherfucker. So this is how you integrate this into your day. In the mornings, start your day like a river, smooth, aware, and moving forward. Don't block the fucking flow. By midday, pause. Remind yourself, my emotions are valid as fuck, and I've got the strength to handle them. And then when evening comes, ask yourself before you sleep, what did I feel today? How the hell did I respond? And what did I learn from all that emotional current? You're not broken because you feel. You're human. And being human, that's your fucking superpower. Thanks for showing up for yourself today. Now go live like it matters. Keep rising, motherfucker.